So for what's been modeled for me, I would say a woman can have it all, but maybe not all at the same time. You have to sort of stagger the goals. I want these things. I'm going to go for it from age 0 to 20. And then the next 20 years, you set some other goals. I'm going to have this. So eventually you get to have all the things that your heart might desire, but not all at the same time.
Hi, Emma. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rima. Thank you for having me.
Emma, I'm going to start with asking you a question that I know you and I have spoken about before.
Mm.
What is your feeling about women having it all?
Oh, what a great starting question. Can a woman have it all? Okay, so the easiest way to answer that question is to answer it from my lived reality. And that is um, from my grandparents' perspective, they didn't believe a woman can have it all. And then I saw my mum have it all, but not all at the same time. So she chose to spend the first 50 years of her life having some things she wanted. And those things she gave priority, like she wanted to be married, she wanted to have a big family, she wanted to raise her kids herself. So she had that. And then after 50, she went after some other goals that she wanted for herself, which was to start a business, to build a house, to become a property investor, those kind of things. So for what's been modeled for me, I would say a woman can have it all, but maybe not all at the same time. You have to sort of stagger the goals. I want these things. I'm going to go for it from age 0 to 20. And then the next 20 years, you set some other goals. I'm going to have this. So eventually you get to have all the things that your heart might desire, but not all at the same time.
I love that answer, honestly, so much because there's been so much damage by that advertisement. If you can have it all, that people are struggling so much to create everything at the same time instead of understanding, like you said, prioritizing what matters to them at that point in their life and then working on the next thing as their desires begin to develop even bigger. So that's a great answer for me. I know you personally have accomplished a ton of stuff in your life, from being a marketing manager for an incredible airline that you created a gold club for them. You worked with some really big companies. I won't mention their names unless you prefer to mention their name. And you have also ran your own business with your husband. From doing all of this, and you also being a mom, how have you been able to prioritize having it all in a sense as you go through these different phases? Because I see a lot of young women that are very ambitious, that are working on creating a life in a way that's great. And I also see women that have gone through all these phases and are now in their later phases of life and are still struggling to create the have it all. So, how have you dealt with it?
So I have two kids. My first child is 16 years old, Julio, and then my daughter is 10 years old. When I had my first child, I was trying to do the have it all at the same time. I wanted to keep my corporate job. I wanted to be an outstanding mom. I wanted to have a clean home. I wanted to, have a thriving, exciting marriage. I wanted to feel good within myself. I wanted to look great all the time. I wanted to travel 2, 3 times a year. And it meant that for maybe the first 5 years of my son's life, I wasn't very present. Wherever I was, my mind was already calculating the next place that I'm supposed to be, and I wasn't very present. So I actually ended up getting burnt out. I exhausted myself. I overdid it, and I think With time, experience, wisdom, I had my second child, so this is a 6 year gap. And the second time round, I think I just wanted to do it differently. I wanted to, I took the whole year off. With my son, I took like 6 months off. I took the whole year off, the full maternity entitlement off. And I got really present with my daughter and I really enjoyed her. And actually, while she was about a year old, my husband and I started a business, which was a fitness center. We opened a gym and a cafe. So she was still young and still on my hips, but I didn't drop her to a nursery. I got to do things with her. And as she got more confident or as she grew, then I'll introduce the next challenge into my life. So I think what I would say is that you have to prioritize. And my ability to prioritize also comes from having a very good morning routine and being able to have a calendar that I schedule. And on that calendar, I plot my essentials, the things that I have to get done. Everything else that I can delegate, I delegate it away. I was a terrible perfectionist the first time around of motherhood. And most of the time I didn't delegate much because I had the mindset that nobody can do it the way I want it to be done or it has to be perfect. But now my mindset shifted to understanding the importance of progress over perfection, right? And also the ability to be really present as a mom for my children and be present for my husband. And as long as I'm growing in heart set, growing in mindset, growing in skill set, growing in my spirituality, I never feel left behind, or I never feel like I have to be around 100 things all at once. So essentially, I think maybe I've achieved where I am now because I learned to prioritize what's important for me. And I learned to get very intentional about how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, including myself, the conversations that we're having in here. And that's just given me wholeness, balance, being able to stay in my body and be grounded and be focused and be grateful.
So did you battle, as you grew through all this, did you battle with mom guilt? Or what I hear is mom guilt.
Oh, a lot of mom guilt. Mom guilt that also came from comparison. I compared my life with other moms and what they were doing. And because mine didn't look like theirs, I felt very guilty. Yeah, there was several years of mom guilt. If I was with them, I might have work with me. You know, as a business owner, I might have to take them, instead of taking them to the park or something fun, I might be going with them to go buy produce or deliver something. Yeah, there was a lot of mom guilt, but that quickly left when I learned to have a good scheduling. And when I was with my children, I was really with them. And when mom was working, I was really working, to be able to separate the two. Yeah.
I think that's the key, is being present wherever you truly are versus being in 1,000 places. Yeah. You have a very unique and wonderful background where you grew up in Ghana and flee to London when you were a child, 8. You lived in London, and then you actually found a wonderful man of Italian background and have been together for 25 years, I think.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, from the multicultural perspective, how has that impacted the way that you raise your children? Because you are privileged to have 3 cultures that you're living with.
For me, as you described my early years, so I was born and raised in Ghana. I lived there till I was 8 years old and then moved to England. There were periods of all those transitions that had an absence of belonging. I wasn't quite sure where I belonged because my family didn't move to England by choice. When you move from one place to another for refuge, that means you leave everything behind. You leave, you're not quite ready to leave as well. It's an emergency exit. There were lots of periods of my parents living still in the past, like one day we'll go back, one day we'll go back. So there wasn't much attempt to settle and embrace the new place that we were. You know, like if you got a job as an expat or you decided, oh, America looks like fun, I'm going to go and live there. You go with a different mindset to embrace the culture, embrace it. We literally changed postcodes or zip codes, as you guys say, but my parents were still very much at home. So there were periods where I felt I didn't belong because I wasn't really immersed in the culture of where I grew up in England here. And then when I met my husband, it was really nice to see how other people live and other cultures live. And also although we're very different. So I'm a Ghanaian British, and obviously he's Italian, but our values were very similar. Italians have enormous value for family, enormous values for sitting and eating together every day. Um, they are very close knit with their family. And so I saw commonalities in our very different cultures, commonalities in our values and what we appreciated in life. And I started to build an identity of it doesn't matter what passport or where you grew up or where you were raised. It's all down to your identity, how you see yourself. How you see yourself is the most driving force for who you become or who you're becoming and how you connect with people, rather than the influence of the journey where life will take you geographically. But I mean, I celebrate the three nationalities that I've been lucky to be around. And you'll see this beautiful fusion in my cooking, in my ability to express myself in three different languages, in music, culture, arts, how we furnish our home, and the luxury of being able to have three different homes. When we go to Ghana, we have a home and people to welcome us with all of their hearts. The same in Italy and obviously in England. So, how have I raised my children? I've raised my children to have a solid identity on who they are, because I haven't raised them to choose any particular sides. They're not madly Ghanaian, they're not madly British, and they're not madly Italian. They are just themselves, and whatever they decide that is for them, I'm happy to see them being confident, bold, courageous, and know that they're lucky to have this fusion of cultures, because it means wherever they go, they will find acceptance and belonging because they've already embraced three cultures within them.
Yeah. Did that come consciously to you to raise them this way because you went through the periods of you didn't feel like you belonged and you really didn't belong at first till you made a choice to belong? Was that conscious for you to go, I'm gonna allow my kids to become more encompassing of all three and not have to choose anything in any way?
It wasn't conscious at all, and it's still not part of my conscious decision. I'm describing the two little humans that I have in my life. So they're teaching me something. But I think the thing that I made a conscious effort as a mum was to let them feel seen, heard, and enormously loved. When I grew up from an upbringing where kids were sent away, even when my parents had visitors, off to your room. Our opinions didn't really matter. Our parents believing that they know best. So whatever they wanted is what I should have wanted for myself. It took a while for me to find my voice and use my voice. My children have voices, they have opinions, they have decisions. We engage them in the day-to-day, everyday decisions that we take together as a family, either where we travel, what we're going to buy, where we're going to go. They have opinions, they have a voice, and they're not afraid to use it. But I think the difference that maybe I grew up lacking more than anything, I knew I was loved. I knew I was loved, but I wasn't told often, I love you. Come and give me a hug. How was your day? And I'm, I guess, maybe reliving childhood through them by giving them what I was missing, that somebody will sit me on their lap every day, because my parents were also very busy. They did that. They worked very hard. They had to work 2, 3 jobs. Being an immigrant family, they had a lot to catch up. They left everything behind. So imagine, like, from the age of, say, maybe 35 or 40, losing absolutely everything and having to start again. It wasn't easy. We're from a family of 6. To keep a roof over our head, all of us fed in school. It was a tough time for my parents. And I guess every generation wants to do better than the previous one before. And they handed the baton on to me in a place where I can give more to my children in that way. And the more that I valued, so it's not about property or whatever was a priority for the previous generation. What I grew up lacking was to feel enormously loved and treasured. And I give that to my kids.
I love that you touched on that topic, that you value your kids, you treat them as humans, as this young individual already, and you involve them in your decisions and in everything else. That's such a shift in the way that this world is becoming, which is the beautiful path that for me personally, I'd love to see every parent begin to go in that direction, because that will change the trajectory of how we as human beings treat each other, because that person is valuable as they are as they grow up. How are you using a lot of this stuff, honestly, for as you go forward, and you're basically coaching these incredible women that are very powerful, are in executive positions, and they still struggle with, I'm going to say, basic stuff of belonging, figuring out what they think is having it all. How are you working with them so that we create a better humanity in how we go forward?
What I'm learning, Rima, from coaching very high achievers is that there are some traits that are learnt. You can achieve a lot of things without these traits, as in you can wing it or fake it or whatever, but it's really still going to be a void or a lack until you sit down and you learn it. Some things are about learning, some things are about unlearning, some things are about relearning. You talked about fundamentals. There are some fundamentals that you can still grow, you can still go forward in life. But if these fundamentals are not well installed in you, you still have a sense of lack or void or the absence of fulfillment. You know, high achievers can achieve a lot in recognition, awards, but that's the outside stuff. There's still a sense of, there can still be a sense of loneliness, emptiness, connection. And what I do is to bring them in and start with the fundamentals again. And that fundamentals looks like identity, how we see ourselves, who we believe we are, the impact we want to make in the world, the things that we value. A lot of women is about self-care and understanding that self-care is not selfish. It is the necessary core ingredient of being able to give, and give a lot. You know, when you have a lot, you can give a lot. But if you're running on an empty cup, you have nothing to give, or you have less to give. And then if you have less to give and you still give, you feel depleted. So it's really about bringing women in and going over the fundamentals that either they learned or didn't learn it well, or need new insights around it, new habits, new rituals to support it, and in a simple and easy way, so that at any given time, every woman, particularly if she's a mother, can radiate joy, can radiate peace, um, can live a life that she truly loves and also deserves to have it.
I see incredible women that have achieved so much in their life, been in executive positions, have traveled the world, have done so much, yet there's this lack, like you said it, within them, where they're attached to their achievements. How do you feel about confidence wise, presence wise, attaching to what they're doing or what you're doing versus you as a human being? And you and I have kind of talked about this offline. So I'd love to hear your perspective, mostly for these young women that are coming into this world, and even these wonderful executives that are still very much a part of this world.
Well, Rima, okay, so let's look at the archetype of a woman, okay? There's the good girl, there's the wild child, there's the adventurous type. And most of us were raised to follow the good girl path. So I was raised to follow the good girl path. And if you're a good girl, from my culture especially, you go to school, you get a top education, you get a good job that also has bragging rights for your parents. My daughter is a X, fill in the blank. She works for X, fill in the blanks. It's, you know, I'm from a community that supports each other, but that community also has advantages and disadvantages. And the disadvantages that there's not much space for uniqueness or sense of adventure or freedom. It's a certain way. You get on the conveyor belt and you follow it. And for some time, I modeled my identity on Amma, the graduate, Amma, the master's, Amma, the marketing director for whoever. And I did that for a long time, Rima, for over 10 years. And I started to question, whose life am I living? And why am I doing this? Because it no longer fulfilled me. I had something bigger, more important that I cared more about, which was my children, my home life, where I was at that time with my young family. And I started to question, could there be another way? Could there be another way where I felt a sense of connection, growth, significance, certainty, but not following the corporate rat race? You know, even on a tube run to work, I would look at all these people walking so fast, and I'm amongst them, but I felt different. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here, but I don't know who I am without doing this, because this has been for a long time what I thought I wanted, but I'm living it. I should be happy. Lots of people will say, oh, you're so lucky. You've got a great job. Oh, look at this, look at that. But I wasn't happy living that reality. So I took a coach. I hired a coach. I spoke my truth. I expressed myself how I feel on a consistent basis. So we talked about mum guilt, you know, dropping the kids off very early in the morning, dropping them off late at night. Sometimes I can't even pick them up. My mum will have to go and pick them up, and they'll stay with her for a couple of days while I travel. This isn't the life I wanted for myself, but it's the life I had created. And you can never create anything outside of your existing mindset, skill set, and identity. So then I had to acquire new skills. How can I make this different? What am I lacking? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What can I hire somebody else to do for me or to give me the knowledge and insight? I read a lot. I went to the seminars. And then I realized that, okay, so I really care about people. I'm really good at that. Even in all my previous roles, I was somehow coaching people, even if that wasn't the job that I was brought in to do. And I decided, right, I love personal development. My heart is really there. So if I'm going to start a side hustle, what would I do? I would do something around counseling or providing therapy for people. That's what I thought. But then when I went through the process of being coached myself to get the skills of becoming a counselor or therapist, I realized that no, I'm actually not so much interested in talking about people's past because we all have a past. You know, when you're in the car, there's a rear view mirror, which is a small one, and then you have the windscreen, which is massive. Why is that? Because you just need a reflection, quick reflection of the past to understand where you came from. But really, the front is what really matters. We're going forward. And when you put in your GPS destination and you understand where you're going, the past doesn't really matter. We just need quick reflection in the past. What was that went past me to get more insight, to get understanding? But really the focus is forward going. And I decided to invest myself to understand how I can go forward and how I can support others to go forward.
Is that how you learn to detach your personality and who you are from the achievements portions? Because honestly, like I said in the beginning, that's what I see a lot of individuals. They attach themselves to whatever they achieved in their corporate world or what that little box that they felt like they had to fit in to become whatever they think the vision of being a corporate executive or whatever they were working on. Is that how you learn to detach yourself from the achievement and really being the powerful Emma that you are?
Attachment from my then identity came because I wasn't happy. I was in an office or around people or around conversations that I didn't want to be around there. So it started by being honest. If I had 1 year to live, and this was my last year, would I want to be doing this? Is this what I want to be doing? You know, my alarm goes off and I'm dreading, oh my God, here we go again. I didn't want that life, Rima. I wanted a life where I couldn't wait to get out of bed. You know, I couldn't wait to go and see the people that I'm working with or impacting. I can't wait to go and learn something new about life, about human beings, how we're all connected, our shared journeys, what's making you buzz, what's making you thrive. That's what I enjoyed. That's what I loved about, you know, having my own cafe and the gym as well, because you get to meet people and spend time with them and understand where they're from and how they're navigating this game called life, you know, and what's making them win and what's making them sad and what's making them excited about their next chapters and adventures. So I just took a really honest introspection and owned up to the truth that I wasn't happy and I wanted a different life for me so that I can give my children a different life.
That's
And
spectacular.
yeah, it took a loss. You know, I lost my certainty because it was easy then because I knew how to do that. I knew how to work for somebody. But now I had to go and get skill sets about being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, you know, basically another new chapter where I was a baby, I was wobbly, I wasn't as confident, and to just grow in that. But I have no regrets at all. And I'm so glad I did it because if I didn't do it then, when again will I do it? Right? Life is so precious, life is so short. And now that I'm caring for effectively two generations, I'm looking after my young children, I'm looking after my elderly parents. My time is now. You know, my time is now so that I can become the best version of me and I can serve both generations that I look after as my highest, truest potential. I don't want my mom to miss out on who her amazing daughter can be. I don't want my children to miss out on their amazing mother. And it starts by even understanding what I enjoy. Forget passion, vision, all those big things. What do I really stand for? And how can I live every day being part of what I stand for and what I love? And that was it. There was no looking back.
And I loved when we spoke before this, and you spoke about if you could tattoo something on you, you would tattoo the word family on your chest to really embrace the family. What does family mean?
Wow. It's a really good question. Mm. So for me, family has two folds. There's the family that I've been born into. There's the family that I've given birth to and created. And then there's the family that the universe has blessed me with. You are family. My parents are family. My children are family. Family is why I'm here for me, that I can be loved and to love back. I can support and to be supported back. I can double the experience, whatever it is, joy, sorrow. This year I've experienced sorrow. My father passed, as I told you. And to be in a family where we can see everything that life, we've seen one perspective of life, really, or mostly, as in, mostly a joyful family. And we are a joyful family, but we've also seen us. I've also been able to see myself and how I fit into my family when something destabilizes us and how we can be there for each other. So for me, I think family is everything. Family is life. Family is who we are. Nature needs us. We're all connected. Nature needs us. Family is the essence of what human beings are. Whether you're born into one, whether you create one, whether you're connected to one, life is about family and connection.
I feel the same way, that family is everything, and that we are all connected in a lot of ways, that the better I become, the better you become, the better our family becomes as humans. Because for people to understand, I'm in California, you're in London, and yet we have a friendship and a connection that spans across countries. And that's very possible. For me, as I went through my journey in my life, as I'm still going through the journey, being born in Lebanon and then moving to the States and understanding the cultures. Like you said, your parents had thought that they were moving and they were going to go back. As an immigrant also to the States, same thing. When we first arrived, there was always the thinking that we're going to go back. And obviously we're still in the States and we love where we are. But knowing and understanding that part of that I am partly Middle Eastern, Lebanese, I was born there. So I have a part of that in me. And as I look at the values of what I bring to the world, I bring a fusion. Just like you bring a fusion. But understanding that, I think that's the word. It gave me more understanding of what others bring to the table and allowing them to understand it so much more. And I see you doing that with your kids, intentionally or unintentionally. You're doing that for your kids and with your kids. And you do that for a lot of the people that you've worked with. And you're doing that now for the women that you work with. How would you love to see a fusion in the world that makes us even more connected, still keeping our uniqueness? Because I don't think that we're ever going to get to a world where everything is the same, because who would desire that? No one would desire that. But how do you see the fusion? Because you are able to work anywhere in the world. That's the blessing of today's world, is we can talk and work with anyone across the world. What
True.
fusion would you like to see?
Um, I think I'd like to see a world where we can just accept each other. Variety is the spice of life. I don't want to come to your house and you're cooking exactly the same thing as me. I want to taste Lebanese food. I want to taste your interpretation of Lebanese with your American influence. And I think just having variety in ideas, in creativity. We're all born to create something. We're all born with unique gifts, talents, lenses, perspectives, understanding. You and me can watch the same movie, we can read the same book, we can hear the same music, and our experiences are unique, as our fingerprints are unique, as our voices are unique. But when we fuse it together, the fusion that I'd like to see is that we're all confident enough to be ourselves, whatever that means, and to know that whatever we've experienced, because that's all it is, we've lived every day we're living right now. You and I are having an experience. We're having an experience of exchanging minds, exchanging ideas, exchanging cultures, exchanging reality that we can share and connect and be with each other, with the intention of creating joy, of sparking joy in each other, of making magical memories, of making a life with meaning and purpose. That 2 3 hours ago I was navigating my kids, cooking for my mum, whatever, and my heart, I'm going to spend some time with Rima, and she's gonna embrace me, whatever I have to share without judgment, to be free to share without judgment, and just to know that we are enough just as we are. Come with all of my light, all of my darkness, or whatever, just to be present, to be able to stay in each other's presence without any judgment, and just to expand our mind and our hearts to experience, to receive, and to give out. I think that would be nice.
I think that would be amazing. My fusion is very similar to yours in a sense that providing space for the individual to show up as they are, no judgment, more curiosity, more understanding, to allow each person to begin to experience the nuggets of what the other individual has experienced in their life, what they know, how they view their lens of life.
Mm.
That's the fusion that I think will make this world so much better, with curiosity, with acceptance, with understanding. And we are definitely beginning to go a lot more towards that because of the wonderful capability to actually connect with anyone in the world and understand that there's a human being across from you, being a human being, just like we are. Uh, Emma, there's so much that you and I can talk about. Did you have something else to share?
Just wanted to say something as you were saying that. One thing I forgot to say is that um, what my career and coaching has also taught me, the more women I serve, the more I realize that actually we have a lot more in common than we are dissimilar, right? Social media, society, culture, religion, politics will lead us to believe that there's an illusion of separation. We don't see the same, we don't agree the same, we don't experience the same. Although we're all unique and we're all on our unique paths and on this journey, when you sit down and spend time with, say, 1,000 women talking about their struggles, their childhood, their parenting experience, we're more similar than we are different. just raised by different mothers, just raised in different country, might have eaten different food, wore different clothes, went to different schools. But our lived human experience is more similar than dissimilar. And that's what I'm recognizing.
That is very true. It reminds me of something that I went through as a child when I moved to the States. I took an English as a second language class, and there were only two other kids in that class, and they were from Israel. And
Oh,
most people look at Israel and the Middle East as not getting along. We got along just beautifully in that class. I mean, that honestly shows that take away all the things that the world attempts to show you to separate you, people do get along. No matter what it is, we do have our commonalities and we continue to work through them. That was the most beautiful experience I had as a child. I didn't even think of it back then till later on. It's like, oh, wait a minute. The world is telling me that I shouldn't be able to get along with a certain type of an individual. It's like, that has nothing to do with it. The more you discover yourself, the more you figure out that you are capable of understanding and loving every human being as they are and understanding them really well. Emma, what is the best way for the audience to keep up with you? Because this is just the tip of the iceberg of us chatting.
yes. I'm very active on my social media, so they can either connect with me either on Instagram, and my handle is simply my name, Amma, AMMA, and then my surname Primicino, which is spelled PRIMICINO. And they'll find me on Facebook or Instagram under Amma Primicino.
Now, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there something that you'd like to address that I didn't ask?
Is there something? Oh, you asked some really good questions. But just one last comment around finding our commonalities and becoming more of a fusion. What I will say from being with someone of a different nationality and culture to me, 25 years ago when I met my husband, my then boyfriend, there were certain parts of the world that when we went to, or even in England, or even in America, that we felt uncomfortable being next to each other or holding hands. And now we can go anywhere in the world and not feel intimidated or embarrassed, or someone might say something bad to us. So where our focus goes, our energy also flows. And I want to bring our focus to the fact that even if the world is not perfect, we're a lot better off. We're a lot more tolerant. We're a lot more loving. We're a lot more understanding. We're a lot more aware, patient, and kind than we ever have been in the evolution of mankind. And also that women are understanding their power, their gifts, their talent. And I just want to see more of every woman opening herself and shining out as bright as she can, whatever that means for her.
Emma, that gave me goosebumps when you mentioned being in places and not feeling like you belonged or being looked at in a certain way. Those places didn't change. Tell me what changed in you, honestly, so that a lot of the individuals that are going through that now in any form, that they can go, this is what I need to work on, this is what I need to latch on and begin moving towards.
I think it starts by radical acceptance and confidence, being accepting of this, who you are, the opportunities we have, the ups and downs of life. For me, I describe it as creating a little bubble. I have a little bubble that that I can't control the outside world, Rima. I can't control even my kids to certain degree, and I don't really want to. The only thing I want to be constantly in control of is my thoughts, because I know that my thoughts are creating my reality. And by this crazy brain that we have, There's a good side to it and there's a bad side to it. And whether we like it or not, there's dialogue going on all the time. And I've got so good at tuning into the conversations that I want to have and interrupting the conversation I don't want to have. So for me, it's about creating an inner bubble. And in that inner bubble, create a reality in there that lights me up. So that when I'm out in the world, I'm not affected by, like now I'm snowed in, but oh, this weather is so annoying. Or today I experienced some road rage with some guy and I was looking at him. I actually felt sorry for him because I knew it wasn't about me. It was about whatever's going on in him. We can create the experience. We can't control outside experiences, but we can control our inner world. And if I wake up deciding today is going to be an amazing day, it's an amazing day because I play the reality and live it, what I want in my world. And most of the time, because I've tuned myself to focus on that vibration, I have more good days than bad days. I have bad days, but they don't last.
I love that. I love who you are. I think that's why we connected so well. I'd like you to do one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to a young woman that is launching her life, early 20s. What would you give her as advice? Maybe if even it's your daughter when she hits 20.
Oh my God.
What advice would you say to her?
I've been asked that question and you're almost going to make me cry. Wow, I love that question. What advice will I give to a 25-year-old Giovanna? That's my daughter at Park. It's a big one. First of all, I'll start by hugging her. Remind her that she matters. I will remind her that she's here for a reason. And she doesn't even have to know that reason. Just to know that you're here for a reason and your life matters. Say, don't kill yourself trying to figure everything out. Rather, spend time, get in the practice or meditation or prayer to expand your heart as wide as it will fit in your body. Expand your mind as wide as it will go. And just to lean into trusting the process of life. Because life is happening anyway. Trust the process. Walk confidently, bravely, courageously on this earth, knowing that we're physical beings manifested in a physical form. This is the only time my spirit will have a physical form. And just to go with that experience with a big heart, a big mind, and to embrace everything. Feel it all, experience it all. You're going to cry sometimes. You're going to laugh sometimes. You're going to get excited sometimes. You're going to feel some rejection sometimes. It's all part of the journey of being alive. Do it all, because in the end, when that day comes and you look back, like at the end of a really good movie, you experienced it all. Your heart went up, your heart went down, you danced, you laughed, you celebrated. That would be the advice. Just go with a really big heart, a really big mind. Be really present, because it's the only time your spirit will have a flesh. And everything you experience is neither good or bad. It's just, it is. It's just as is. But at least when you leave here, you experienced it all.
Thank you. Thank you. I asked something kind of similar to my niece, and her way of expressing it is she said, take up space. Don't be afraid to take up space. You deserve to take up space. Emma, thank you for taking as much space as possible in our world and making a difference in everyone's lives that you touch. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. And for our viewers, for our listeners, please remember that our attitude always determines our altitude in life. So keep moving forward, keep doing the things that make you a better individual of who you are. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye, Rima.